Zac Barnett, footballscoop.com, joins us now. And Zac, the season's here. Do you have a content, like a brain shift now and you guys cover a lot of coaching news and you cover it really well. So that's good. You don't have to get in the weeds of like the craziness of the offseason as much as maybe some others do. But do you have like a brain shift of like, oh, now I have to talk about like actual touchdowns and fumbles and stuff?
Yeah, it's funny. And it hit me today. Like we have I host a college football show on the Ticket here in Dallas on Saturdays during the fall, and we have our first show tomorrow. So this will be our third year to do it, and I'm finding myself getting back in the routine of, all right, what are we going to talk about? Okay, let me do my prep for there. I've got certain people I watch, certain people I read for game breakdowns, and they're starting to put their stuff out for not just like, who I think is going to be good, but who's going to win this game, what are the keys to that game, and I'm like, I've been waiting since January, and now it's here, and it's like, wow, it hit me kind of like a ton of bricks. And so before we know it, it'll be January and time to start this whole cycle over again. But I find myself more excited than ever to get back into this season.
Were you always a P1, Zac? Like, was being on the Ticket like a dream gig? Like, I don't know about your background so much, but as a P1 myself, I just wondered about that.
Yeah, I would, if I had to sit here and give you under truth serum and say how much listening to the Ticket has shaped my life and my personality, it would probably be shocking. I would say, yes, I'm a P1, and my devotion to the Ticket has probably been way too far, too deep to even be healthy. But I'm in the ecosystem. I'm on the totem pole hosting a show on that station. If you told me that I would be doing that when I was a teenager, I would be, in disbelief. So to think that I get to do that every week during the fall is a dream come true and then some.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool, man. So congrats on that. I know you've been doing it for a while now, but yeah, that's awesome. So, man, the big game that kicks everything off tomorrow, we got a conference game. We got a game in Ireland. It's got all sorts of cool uniqueness to it. Iowa State, K-State. It's also Farmageddon. It's two teams that, Zac, I think in this league are in that clump of teams that you go, yeah, they could be in the title game, and yeah, they could win the Big 12. What are your initial thoughts on K-State, Iowa State tomorrow in Dublin?
I think I'm really glad we're getting this game, and this game, as weird as it is to be happening in Ireland, I'm glad that it has its own standalone spotlight, because it's one of college football's underrated rivalries, and it's, as you mentioned, obviously a huge game for Big 12 championship implications. Like half this conference could easily win it, and someone's going to be behind the eight ball to win the conference and get into the playoff before the season even really starts. And these week zero games have a way of being more than just a sideshow. They kind of set the stage for the entire season. I know it was an FCS game, but I'm recalling Carson Wentz having a coming out party at North Dakota State and eventually being the number 2 pick of the draft or whatever he was. Northwestern, I recall, beating Nebraska, and Scott Frost got fired that season. Last year, Florida State, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, as we saw, ended up being a lot better than everyone thought, and Florida State was worse than anyone could ever imagine. So I think this game it's not a preseason game. It is an important, this will be a big game in November, and we're getting it in mid-August. So I think it's one of those that someone's going to feel really horrible about themselves as they make that 10-hour flight from Ireland to the American Midwest. And I'm as sick as this sounds, I'm really excited for someone to be absolutely disgusted for 12 hours on an airplane.
Craig, what was that last one he was talking about? The last one in Ireland? I've blacked out from that.
The what in Ireland?
The last game that was in Ireland before this one.
Was it Georgia Tech and?
Yeah, see,
Georgia Tech, Florida State.
Yeah, I've blocked it from my memory.
Oh, okay. You're trying to make a joke.
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
now
sorry,
I get it. It says Florida State fan Paul here. Yes, okay. Now I understand. Thank you.
Listen, Zac, when you're going to come on this show, you have to talk about things that really happened. No.
I would not claim that season at all if I was in your shoes either.
No, I think the best thing for my psyche is to become a conspiracy theorist about it and be like, oh yeah, we never did land on the moon. and that didn't happen. So that's the best thing. So Zach, you did a deep dive. I guess it was yesterday, right, on the Big 12 quarterbacks. You looked at all of them and where they're from and all this. It was really kind of cool article to look at and go through and kind of all this. What do you think, one, about the depth of the quarterbacks in this league, and then two, Bear Bachmeier, like starting as a true freshman at BYU? That's a little bit out of left field.
Yeah, so far, one interesting nugget that I've come over is I've cataloged the Big 12 and the ACC, and between the two of them, and then I'm also deep into the SEC and the Big 10. So as far as I know, as of right now, there are going to be two true freshmen starting quarterbacks in the Power Four, and both of those guys are transfers. Like Cal starting quarterback, who I'm not even going to try and say his name, you can look it up, and then Bear Bachmeier. They're going to start as true freshmen, and neither one of them signed with their schools in December. I mean, that Bear Bachmeier he went through spring ball at Stanford, and like 4 months later, he's starting for BYU. So I know a lot of people are high on BYU. I find it unlikely to think that Bear Bachmeier as a true freshman is going to go out and beat a lot of these guys. The majority of there's far more quarterbacks, especially in the Big 12, from the 2021 class than even the 2024 class, let alone 2025. So what we're seeing in what I've learned in studying this is it's far more likely that these guys are not going to have a high-level quarterback recruit. You're probably not going to have the career you think you're going to have. Like, there's going to be a benching. You're going to lose a quarterback battle. There's going to be coaching change. At some point, more often than not, or equally likely as not, you're going to have to transfer to find your eventual forever home, wherever that may be. And it's not going to be the career you envision, but if you're willing to see through that and you're good enough and you have what it takes, you can go have a fruitful career. And at least in comparison to the ACC, the Big 12 brings back a lot more veteran guys that have either going into their second year as a starter at their Big 12 school, or they started somewhere else and now are transferring in. The number that jumped out to me was the median number of returning starts for an ACC quarterback is like 12 and a half, and the Big 12 at 17. So you have a lot more guys, a lot fewer quarterbacks in the Big 12 that have no experience, or guys that are going into their second, third year. For the median to be like a whole half a season more of starts, I think, underscores the type of season we all expect to have from the Big 12, where, half of this league could easily win the conference and only one of them is going to.
So, Zach, there's 4 more games tomorrow. UNLV, Idaho State, KU, Jalen Daniels, they got their stadium that they're ready to reveal against Fresno State. Western Kentucky hosting Sam Houston, and Hawaii hosting Stanford. Do any of those particularly pop out for one reason or another? Just want to make sure we're covering all our bases on this opening weekend. But did you have your interest piqued by any of those other 4 in any particular way?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dive too much into personal information right now, but if I had $1,000 free to bet, I would put it on Western Kentucky to cover the 10.5 against Sam Houston. Sam Houston, basically their entire defense now plays for North Texas. They hired Skylar Watson. North Texas did their coordinator, and I think he brought 10 guys with him to Denton. So you have Phil Longo as a brand new head coach with an entirely new defense, going on the road in week 0 to Western Kentucky. That the last time they had a starting quarterback that didn't throw for 4,500 yards in the season, I think, was like 1974. Now, I'm obviously making that up, but my vision of Western Kentucky is they can't do a lot of things. They throw the football and they score points every single year, almost no matter who's the head coach. So to think that in game 1, Sam Houston is going to go on the road and stay within 10.5 points, whatever the number is, of Western Kentucky, I find that hard to believe. And I don't do this often, but I would feel very comfortable betting Western Kentucky in laying the points.
Kansas tomorrow, they have Fresno State at home at the booth at the new stadium. Matt Entz takes over there at Fresno State. He's a very accomplished coach at North Dakota State. Nothing's a gimme for Kansas. I don't think their fans live in that world where they think that they can just roll in and win games. But Jalen Daniels is healthy. Is now the time for them to get a nice opening win over a good G6 opponent and kind of build some momentum towards at least staying in this Big 12 race for a little while?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to throw a flag on the fact on Kansas fans not taking gimmies. I think if Kansas loses to Fresno State, they're not going to walk out saying, "Hey, we're Kansas." They're going to be freaking pissed. And I'd be right there with them if I was a Kansas fan, especially considering all that they've invested in that program. I mean, they're into that stadium. They're putting $500 million to basically rebuild the booth on top of its old self. So. Jalen Daniels is a class of 2020 quarterback, I believe. Fresno State's got a really good quarterback, a really solid college quarterback in E.J. Warner. So this is by no means a gimme, but this is a game. I mean, we talked about Kansas State and Iowa State. One of them is going to feel really bad about themselves before the season really starts. Kansas is going to feel they're going to feel terrible if they lose this game. And the unofficial unveiling, they've only built half of it, but the soft opening of their quote-unquote brand new stadium to lose to a Mountain West team under game one of their head coach, like this is a must-win for them.
So, Zach, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I agree with you 100%. So there's games going on, but it's college football these days, so there's also extracurricular stuff going on as well. And I think next week when there's this full flood of games, there's going to be little room to talk about the playoff and all these different things. But we did get the SEC scheduling news yesterday. People have been awaiting that for a very long time, and now it's kind of unpacking. Well, first of all, brilliant timing by Sankey to lay that out now, and everybody's talking about it. But what it all means in the end is kind of still a gray area. But what were your thoughts when you saw the SEC make it official with 9 conference games moving forward?
I was glad to see it. Your most important stakeholders in any sport are your fans, and to give them another SEC game while also requiring to play a Power 4 non-conference opponent. So you're taking away a SoCon opponent and adding an SEC opponent. I think that's great. I mean, the stat that everybody throws out there is Georgia still has not played at Kyle Field, despite the fact that A&M joined the SEC in the Obama administration. Seems impossible, but that's the reality we're living in. So more SEC games, I think, is great. I think it probably makes the 5+11 seem more likely for the SEC. I wish they'd stay at 12, but I could think I don't see the Big Ten completely folding up shop on their cockamamie scheme to get 14 or 28 or whatever the number is, because now the idea of an SEC team, a really good SEC team going 8-4 seems more likely than it did 3 days ago. So having that protection of, if we just get into the top 6, we can go schedule a really tough non-conference game and lose it. We can go schedule, an additional SEC game and lose it and still have a chance to play for a national championship. That probably sounds more appealing if I'm an SEC athletic director than it did 72 hours ago.
Who loses in this? Is it, schools like that may have, future games scheduled with a team like Georgia has FSU, Ohio State, other teams on the schedule, but they have Georgia Tech. So, do they take their rival or do they kill a rivalry and keep those games? Are there any losers in the SEC 9-game scenario?
Yeah, your losers are your Missouris, your Kentuckys, your Mississippi States. Getting to 6-6 just got that much harder. I mean, I don't think it's a secret that the one SEC coach that's gone on the record in favor of the Big Ten's watered down college football playoff was Eli Drinkwitz. Missouri had no business playing for a national championship last season, and thankfully did not make it. But Eli Drinkwitz was putting his fist on the table hard for this Big Ten plan, because it's realistically the only chance Missouri will ever have to compete for a national championship, and I think he knows it, even if he doesn't want to admit it. So your middle to lower class, your Arkansas, even your Ole Misses, your Auburns. I think it's going to get that much tougher knowing that they have to go play each other, play another game against the upper class of that conference. It's going to be harder for those coaches to get contract extensions, for those ADs to get extensions, for your fundraisers to go out and hit their marks when your team that used to go 8-4 is now going 6-6. Those are the losers. So in that regard, I salute the SEC for pushing through with this, even though it's going to make life harder for some of their schools.
Yeah, certainly will. I saw this tweet from you and went and read the article, but Urban Meyer wants the NFL to suspend Jim Harbaugh for his NCAA violations. He on his podcast, he mentioned that Jim Tressel got suspended by the Colts for 6 games. It's kind of, I mean, he knows it'll never happen. I think it's funny to have Urban Meyer, of all people, like try to, ride the moral high ground of doing things right. And it's just more like Ohio State, Michigan hatred here. But it is strange for me to hear a guy who got sued by his kicker for assaulting him during a warm-up, try to ride the high ground about what the NFL should do about Jim Harbaugh.
It's funny, but it's one of those, is he wrong?
He's not wrong, though.
He's not wrong. And my other takeaway is that Alabama and Auburn fans love to pound their chest and say they're the most intense rivalry in college football. They're not. Alabama and Auburn people work together. They go to church together. I think Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze, if they were seated next to each other at a banquet, would probably have a friendly, cordial conversation. Everyone at Michigan absolutely hates everyone at Ohio State. Like, Urban Meyer hates Jim Harbaugh as a human being. Jim Harbaugh hates Urban Meyer as a human being. He hates Ryan Day as a human being. Like, there's true hatred at the core of this rivalry. And I understand the Alabama-Auburn argument is, familiarity breeds contempt, and because we live next to these people and work next to these people, we compete, we argue 365 days a year. But I'm sympathetic to that argument. We live it here. Baylor TCU has that same dynamic. UT&M has that same dynamic. So I'm sympathetic to it. But at the end of the day, you have to find a way to coexist with these people. Your Michigan, Ohio State people, there's probably not as much intermingling between those people on a day-to-day basis as there is in these interstate rivalries, but they all freaking just absolutely hate each other.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, Zach, official, make your pick. Who you got, Iowa State or Kansas State?
I'm going to go Kansas State. Iowa State leaned heavily on a pair of receivers. They're now in the NFL. I don't think in game one they're going to be able to generate enough offense to beat K-State.
All right. Zach, you heard it from Zach. He's picking K-State. We'll make our picks a little bit later in the show. Zach, great to talk to you. We're going to have Zach regularly. We don't know exactly when yet, but we're going to work that out next week. He'll be a regular guest. Go to footballscoop.com. Zach and John, everybody do a great job, especially when it comes to you're my first look every morning when I get up when coaches are moving around. Like, you're my first look. Because you guys are so on top of it. Especially, I can get a tweet from someone that just says this is the new OC somewhere, but the details of it, I go to you guys all the time.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
If we had a few more, then I have enough spare cash to put the money I want to down on Western Kentucky, Sam Houston. But we'll get there.
We'll get to you. I hope so. Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com.